Okay, well, Steve Carlson here. I'm at the Farmfest and I'm at the soybean booth. Currently, it's just 9 o'clock and hoping to talk with some of the producers down here. I have been talking with quite a few people. What I'm finding out is that the Senate candidates are really just Trump bashing. And even Karen Housley is talking about anxiety and all of this. I'm finding out that there's real leadership happening here in the ag industry. One person I talked to, who's very knowledgeable, says that the farmers down here are the smartest people on the planet. They also send delegations to China for both soy and corn every year. And if there's any way that we can help the people of China to get these products, we'll find it. The planting decisions are being made probably November, December, when they'll start ordering the seed. And there's probably going to be a little shift to planting corn this year because not only of the China's situation that we've been kind of snookered into, um, but because hogs can eat soy or corn, and the hog industry is a big consumer of this. So we're going to have a lot of farmers making this decision, and I believe that we as elected leaders, and I will do so if I'm elected to the U.S. Senate, should encourage people to make the very best choices, and especially the smartest people on the planet. And they're going to do very well for us. They call this a Band-Aid approach, but it's really a short-term miscalculation that has been made by farmers based on their information. Of course, they pay high prices in China, and maybe that is a problem. Maybe there needs to be adjustment in trade on both sides so that they can really be buying uh, products that really help China. China should be having more transfer of technology in terms of pigs. We sell a lot of parts of the animals, and I believe poultry too. Um, I double checked that, but to the Chinese that are not used here. And so people have been making pork production decisions based on that market. And there's probably a 6 month kind of glitch there. And so this $12 billion should not only be helping to provide some relief for people from those decisions that they made, and they were the right decisions at that time, given what they knew. But we're learning more about China and which direction we should be going. Further, I believe the $200 million for export market development should include some reality training that just because you're getting the high prices here at the moment doesn't mean that that country is really doing trade in the best possible way. I'm also hearing that NAFTA 2.0, they are indeed very hopeful about that, and that's going to help a lot more with pork, as I understand, than it will directly with soybeans, because currently China has been ordering like 36 million metric tons of soybeans from the United States compared to about 3.6 around there from Mexico and NAFTA. So there's a lot of good things going on out here. I know that some of the politicians like Richard Painter are saying if Trump isn't impeached, right now we're going to have the Dust Bowl and Herbert Hoover all over again. This is foolish, and I think people need to get down on the ground and provide some real leadership, Amy. I know she'll be on the stage with no competitors by acclamation in the Democratic Party, although I'm here and asking to be there with her. So now I'm going to kind of let this go and see if somebody wants to come up and talk with me. I'll get some more information. Otherwise, I've been talking to a lot of people. I'm going to talk to the corn growers now, as well as to the pork producers, and I will be there for that debate. I will probably be recording it right here and bringing it to you along with my own comments. Steve Carlson, running for U.S. Senate, and thanks for your attention to this. Hi, sir.
Didn't want to interrupt you.
Thank you. No, interrupt. So, what's your name?
Keith Nelson.
Hi, Keith. I won't necessarily put that on there. I'm going to put some of my own comments if you'd like to, but otherwise I'll edit yours out.
I don't know what.
I'm just putting on my website and, letting people know what I've been finding out. But tell me what's up. Are you, you're an exhibitor? That means you.
Yeah, well,
Did I?
Okay.
Are you one of the officers I talked to or heard from?
No. There's Minnesota soybean.
Yeah.
And it's two branches. The research and promotion and the soybean growers.
Okay.
And there's a dividing line between them. So.
Who are you with?
I'm with the growers.
I think that's the organization I've been talking about.
Okay. And we have to. All our money is raised by membership and some PAC money or whatever.
What are your goals this year?
Well, I heard you talking about the China thing, and I'm real concerned about it because even if it's solved tomorrow, lots of damage is done.
Mm-hmm. What damage has been done already?
Well, see, I'll go back. I'm old enough. I'd go back to the Russian wheat embargo.
Sure.
It took years to rebuild those markets.
Right.
You will lose a market overnight, and it takes years to get it back.
Are they better now than before?
Well, from that it's a whole different world because Russia's become more efficient. So, but China is never going to be able to produce enough food for themselves.
Their people really want to buy from us.
Yeah.
But other people have other goals, I think, in China to get technology and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that we don't want to be commenting on that now, but so what was the cause of that embargo? Was that on our part? Was that like Jimmy Carter or something? Or
yeah, part of it came down to, oh gosh, we're shipping all our wheat over there. The bread makers. That's how I remember it. The bread makers said, wait a minute, we're going to run out of wheat to make bread. Well, that was never going to happen. That was not going to happen. But you know how a hysteria rules.
Right. And that is present in this situation, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to impeach Donald Trump to avoid another Dust Bowl, as Richard Painters said in the Senate debate the other day. That's hysterical. And I think that's what politicians are doing. They're playing on anxiety. They always use the word anxiety, and they blame it on Trump. But what do you think? So I know there's some damage that's been done. It's not all going to be covered by $12 billion.
No.
But we can help to make better decisions going forward, do you think? You think there's some miscalculations that people didn't realize that there was an environmental risk here, that maybe they should get a little tighter with the Chinese counterparts to
well, some of this embargo came about, or tariffs, because China was stealing our intellectual property.
Right. By force, really. You can't avoid it because they make you do it by their laws.
But on the same token, our farmers are saying, I bought this new tractor and I can't fix it. It's all, the computers are all lockboxed or whatever, and I have to have the dealer has to fix it. Well, they didn't like that either. So that's intellectual property owned by the tractor company. But,
why won't they fix it?
Well,
is this a Chinese company?
No. It's like John Deere sells you a tractor, and you have trouble in the field and you can't fix it. They have to send somebody out, so they get the money because it's their intellectual property.
So when you talk about fixing it, that includes making an adjustment from one crop to the other?
Well, no.
Okay, you can use the same tractor.
It's more for if there's a glitch in the.
You need to be paid now to pay it.
It's like your computer. If you have a little virus or something, maybe you're smart enough to get it out of there.
Or I can buy another computer cheap.
Or the company says, no, you can't take that out of there. We have to come and do it.
Right.
And
so
and
you
by
need
the
to
way,
pay
by the
these
way,
guys.
it's $150 or
Yeah.
whatever.
And so that becomes a problem when
Yeah.
your contracts aren't going through.
Yeah.
What happens to those contracts? Do you enter into a contract which binds you that
Yep.
you get penalties for if
Well,
you don't meet it, or how does that work out?
with the intellectual property,
No, just for selling your soybeans. Like, I
I
don't know how the
don't-
contracts work.
I
or you
don't know
have-
because China buys a lot of they contract a lot of beans. There was a bean sale. Certain times of the year you can go on your DTN and they sold beans to China today. They sold so many metric tons. They sold so many, and then 5 months later you'll see China canceled.
Right. So they cancel.
They cancel and they cancel. And I don't know the answer to this. If there's a penalty in that
For them to cancel.
Yeah.
So they're the ones that are canceling, of
Yeah.
course, with the retaliation.
Yeah. Well, they've done before the retaliation. They would do that.
Okay.
It was like they're lining up extra supplies, and then but we can buy it from Brazil a little cheaper, so we're going to cancel yours and buy theirs. And I have no idea if there's a penalty for that or not.
Okay. So you're in a predicament. I was talking to the corn growers officer, and he thinks that the farmers are the smartest people on the planet. What would you say about that? Or is he kind of overselling it?
He was overselling it. We're no smarter than anybody else.
So how do you get your information to make decisions? Are you a farmer?
Yeah. Well, semi-retired.
Okay.
You go, we get university information. You go to seed dealers. You go to your chemical dealers. You have a lot of farmers used to have DTN. It's kind of fading now because you can get it on your phone. You can get a lot of information without paying their fee.
And DTN is technical and support or something?
Well, it's you have a box and a screen, and you turn it on in the morning, and it gives you the markets and gives you some commentary.
Sure.
And
gotcha. Okay, so it's commodity.
Every elevator has one that they have their markets are up on all day long.
So that's part of the way that you get to be the smartest person on the planet, but there's a lot of information there.
Yeah, there's way too much information. If you think you should be selling, and these guys are saying no, it's going higher,
So are the county extension divisions, for ag extension, are they getting involved in helping farmers with this?
Oh,
Or do you expect them to at some time? Or what kind of help do they give?
Extension has faded so much. Lack of money. It used to be an extension person for every county, and then they got to be more of a cluster. I really don't. There are extension people around. They work at I'm down by Lamberton, the Lamberton Experiment Station. There's extension person there, but it isn't like it used to be.
You really need them on the ground because they need to be near your actual farm environment to really help you?
No, so many bigger farmers are hiring consultants now.
Okay.
And they come out, say like right now is an aphid time of the year.
Okay, right.
And so these crop consultants, they're out there from daylight in the morning. They probably got waders on, because the beans are so wet, but they're out there looking for aphids all day long. Right. And they tell we've checked 7 of your fields, and we think you should spray your beans. Okay. Or they say, no, it's not, there's not enough. So you have those. There's a lot of information floating around. You just have to know where to get it.
You think anybody in the Minnesota Extension University has some views and information of value to help with this situation with China? Have they been putting out any, or have people been asking?
No,
them?
This is strictly, the president.
What do you think of the president? What do you think of the president?
I really shouldn't say.
Okay, but how about with regards to? So basically, are you feeling like frustration because of what he did that now you have to deal with?
Well, you're frustrated because he said, "I'm for the farmer,"
right?
And then he picks an EPA guy that was totally against ethanol, and things like that.
But is he against ethanol, or just that there are not going to be these regulations requiring the purchase of corn for ethanol production? I mean, has he really limited it, or has he just said we're not going to regulate it, we're not going to guarantee a floor kind of thing?
Small refineries were given an opportunity to be exempt from this RFS program, and he was giving those things out. I mean, in the past, you had to meet some pretty strict guidelines to get it, and now all of a sudden he was giving those passes out just anybody that asked for one, and it was supposed to be small refiners, and Shell Oil got some of them, so.
These are waivers?
Waivers.
Okay, right.
Waivers. It was not good. And so you say the president says one thing, but the people he puts around himself do the other thing, and so you kind of wonder what's going on.
Okay, so you think there might be a disconnect. Isn't there like a deputy assistant in the USDA that is really bringing to Trump the importance of agriculture in this whole trade situation?
Yes. Well, actually, the Secretary of Ag.
You're talking about Perdue?
Perdue.
You think he does that?
Well,
you think he's really pushing agriculture and helping to...
The president was going to do something here early on, and Perdue walked in his office with the map and said, "See all that red out there in the farm country?"
Right, I remember reading about that.
Yeah, he says, "See who? This is the people you're going to hurt."
So
that's a very. The president doesn't back down from much.
But do you think he seems to have listened to him?
Yeah,
right?
He seemed to have listened to that on that point. Yeah.
So, but you think he wants to help you, but he doesn't have the team in place that is giving the best help.
Yeah. Well, the problem is he doesn't listen to his team half the time.
Well, that's what you hear on some things.
Yeah.
On this, you think that he did, and he would continue to.
Yeah.
So he needs to listen to more. What more do you think he needs to hear right now besides the kind of exasperation of being canceled all the time by China? And now a total cancellation.
Yeah. What does he need to hear? Oh gosh, that's tough.
Right.
That's tough to decide.
Do you think that apart from the difficulties that have already occurred, do you think that there is an opportunity for people to change their growing decisions, in particular from soybeans to corn for the next planting season?
Yes, but
you need to know something for that to make sure you're making them. Are you planting soybeans right now?
Yeah.
And so, of course, you're involved with the soybean growth. So, what would you need to see to make that decision?
Well,
either from the government or from China.
One of the things is that this part of the country is kind of a two-crop deal.
Right.
You got corn and you got soybeans, and there's some sugar beets and there's some sweet corn and whatnot. But you got corn and soybeans, and you have to add extra equipment to do something else.
Right.
And to jump to something else, you have to be confident that there's going to be a price there, a market and a price.
Now, what if the administration recognized that and said, well, maybe we should include maybe in this export development or market development, maybe we should include some assistance to help those people to be able to afford that. Maybe like a loan or some kind of assistance. That kind of thing might be helpful if people had a clear choice and something they could actually do.
Yeah. And we do have our marketing and international marketing in every commodity has those international marketing things.
They already
There's not a glut of food in the world, but there's a glut of food in the world for those people who can afford to buy it.
Right.
So
So you need to see what's and the corn market, frankly, is not real strong right now,
Right.
and that's because of. You think that's because people are eating less meat or something? That so you're not feeding the hogs.
See, there could be a big train wreck coming in the hog market.
Okay.
Because there was pork being exported to China, and that's going to go by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hi, can I join you?
Yep,
Sure.
Yep. Jamie Beyer.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hi.
Steve Carlson.
Vice president of the growers, right?
You work with the U of M, or you?
I'm actually running for the U.S. Senate.
Yeah. Okay.
I have worked with the U of M when I was there, but that's been 1987.
Oh, okay.
And I was mentioning I did visit the Waseca campus, but that was mostly, I think it's closed now, isn't it?
Yeah, as an
yeah.
official campus.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, but they
might
still have a
have-
strong
Yeah,
extension.
Something's going
I don't know
on
if
there,
they
but
have
I'm
some
not really
outreach
sure.
or offices there.
I think it was mostly about the liberal arts college. They were going to
Yeah.
close it, which they did. So, but yeah, I've been down here, and obviously we have great respect for the productivity here in Minnesota and in Iowa. So yeah, and I guess my position has been that I see all of these politicians kind of playing on the anxiety and the difficulty of this situation, but not really showing any leadership. And I guess some of us are saying, well, Trump is showing leadership, and some of his cabinet people are pushing him to show more leadership, and yet it seems like he needs to do even a little more. And so one of the things that I had come to was that if people need to change their growing decision for the coming up, they're going to switch to corn. I'm not here to sell switching to corn, of course, but I understand that that's something, even though the corn prices are low, and I was just trying to figure out why they're so low. You have an idea why they're low?
Well, see, this year there was a big switch to beans
Right.
because there was going to be a good market for beans. And it was
So relatively it's low.
And corn is very expensive,
Corn
much
is
more
expensive to
grow.
raise. So if
Really?
if you're burning through capital, you're.
Okay, so
That's-
there's an expense.
In my opinion, that's the switch.
Yeah.
More to beans is.
Okay,
expense-driven.
and of course you guys are soybeans, so I want to hear each side.
And we grow them both. You know.
You do grow them both,
Yeah.
but it is much more expensive. And is that because you can't sell it? It's more expensive in absolute terms, or it's more expensive as far as the payback, the return on investment?
It's more expensive to put in the ground. Seed
Okay.
costs more. Fertilizer costs more. Chemicals about the same. And then there's more product to haul out of the field.
It's bigger. You know,
There's more volume, and you have to dry it. You generally have to dry it. Beans you can take out of the field and put in the bin.
You know, there was one suggestion about making E15 all year round. I think we're all very interested in that.
Is there really a market for the E15?
Well, you know, what I'm hearing is that it can be used a lot wider than people think.
Than just auto?
Yeah. As far as like
ethanol.
lawnmowers.
Oh, okay. And so that's something that's not going to do a whole lot.
No, but doing the E15 year round
Would make an impact, and that would help the corn market. So I guess what we're talking too is apparently for all the commodities have these kind of marketing development programs that kind of help people get into it. Possibly that's not adequate right now for the kind of shift which people might want to make. But so if you added something to that, do you think that would give people a clear choice so they could actually get into that?
as far as putting more into corn and less into soybeans. Part of the problem too is our rotations.
Right.
So our
But I understand you
rotations
can do corn after corn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so what's the real issue there as far as the rotation? Would that'd be kind of a temporary thing too, right? So it could add more time. So if this was worked out down the road, that there was a returning soy market, which obviously there is in China, but you could get to it, that you could do one more rotation and actually get into it from soy. That would be
at University of Illinois, their campus. They have a plot there that's been corn for over 100 years.
Oh, okay.
You know, so it can be done. It's more expensive and it doesn't yield quite as much. There you can grow beans after beans, but you do run into disease problems.
Okay.
And so
Has that been happening?
You talk about jumping to some other crop. When you're in the lifeboat and it's sinking, but all the lifeboats around you are sinking too.
Yeah.
Which one do you jump to?
So I'm hearing a message though that if people are going to have that choice, which obviously they have to have because they didn't create this situation, that the government needs to step up and help them make that choice, and maybe even beyond the $12 billion, which is more of a general. I guess all those details are still being worked out.
I don't know that we would support just everyone moving to corn for a lot of different reasons. And like you said, for weed control, for pest control, crop rotation is really important. So, we're also juggling sugar beets and wheat and alfalfa. So diversification is important for price risk, to weather risk. It delays. You can plant things at different times and harvesting at different times. We can't have all the crop going in at the same time and all coming out at the same time.
So without
there's
going
a variety of reasons.
So without going to corn directly, there could be diversification.
Well, we have the diversification. It's just one segment now. And the farm economy overall is depressed. So corn prices aren't great. That's why we're putting in beans.
Yep.
So.
Right. Okay. So as far as this,
and the hog market, now I read recently, it costs about $49 a hundred to raise a hog to market weight, and the price this fall is probably going to be $40.
So they're going to lose money. $9 per
and that's
hog.
where so many of our crops go to feed livestock.
Yep.
Right. So the price of livestock.
So exporting to China soy is a real lifesaver in this farm economy.
Yeah, we think it's good. We think we have a lot of hogs. China has 4 or 5 times as many hogs. And soybeans, 95% of soybean, more than that, of soy meal goes to livestock.
Okay.
Just almost all of it. There's just a couple things that are pulled off of there, right?
So the China tariff is a problem, but then also NAFTA and TPP. So
no, I'm hearing Mexico, that on NAFTA Canada, that they're very hopeful. Canada. Right, Mexico, Canada, they're all on NAFTA. So I'm hearing that they're very hopeful for a NAFTA 2.0. Okay. Do you think so too?
I've heard mixed messages.
Right. So of course, you never know till they happen.
I think that's the biggest problem maybe with the Trump administration is just we don't have any details, and nobody knows who's giving those details. So I know it's not Congress that's giving those details. I know it's not state agencies. So who's in the room is the problem right now. If we knew who was in the room, who was helping him make those decisions, I think it would add a lot of security.
So
we don't know who's making these policies.
There's a lot of things that are said out in the open that sound really wonderful. But then when they go back to the little room, the old boys in the little room,
right,
so to speak, you never know what's going to come out of
there. I
would
think, maybe we have different perceptions of Trump, but I would think that Trump would be the one who would move away from the old boy network and would try to do the smart thing. I mean, I know that's not the perception people are getting, but like he's responded to the Purdue's request, basically to kind of slow it down a little bit, and then he's putting this aid in place.
Well,
and he's trying to win this.
The lack of details. So like on the aid, we're hearing you have to have your yields in this fall, September or October. Well, we won't be done harvesting. We won't have those calculations by September, October. It's little things like that where it's like we hope someone's at the table telling these people these details.
What do you need the yields for in order to get
paid? We need
because how are you going to divvy out $12 billion?
Okay.
And I talked to my loan officer at the bank just a couple of days ago, and he said, yes, some of this will be in place, but you won't know how much what you're going to get until about March.
Right.
And all these financial statements have to be done before that to see if you're going to farm next year.
Well, let me kind of switch quickly. What do you folks think about the farm bill? What are you looking for in that as far as the soy growers?
We need it passed. We need flexibility. I think, we're pretty solid with the House side. I mean, the Senate side.
Okay.
The work requirements are beyond our interest.
I think that Trump has come down on the side that he wants to see that. But that leads me in another question. I mean, was it a stronger economy it may not help the soy market immediately because so much of it goes to livestock and it needs to kind of cycle through. But doesn't that in general help agriculture a lot? If more people are working, have more income, they buy more food.
But our prices aren't tied to food.
To process food, it's more a wholesale market,
right?
But I mean, but it would probably help the food industry if the economy gets. I mean, we have 4.1% economic growth. We have amazing, increase in participation in the workforce from not only,
there are times when the meat counter has no connection to what the price on the hoof is.
Right. Right. So that's what you need to face. And so this becomes the biggest problem. Maybe
we don't want a bad economy.
No.
I mean, nobody wants that. But just because the rest of the economy is trucking along and ag isn't, it isn't going to bring us up.
So I was asking him this, if you were talking to Donald Trump, what would you tell him right now? As to what he should do.
I would want his people negotiating trade agreements. We need people talking to people in these countries. We've heard so many times from ambassadors that no one's talking to their countries. No one's negotiating these things. So if you're not going to go TPP, you've got a myriad of individual agreements that need to get done and negotiated, and that's just not happening.
It sounds like you really like TPP, and I can understand that.
As a soybean farmer, it's not good for. We also have sugar beets. It's not good for sugar beets. So it's, it's an agreement. It's something to facilitate trade because Australia is right there to fund Japan. They can take over. You've got these developing agricultural zones in Myanmar. And they can produce things much cheaper than us because they don't have to pay property tax. They don't have buffers. They don't have health care. They don't have these mandates that we do.
The whole trade issue.
We don't come close on price to these other countries.
So specifically, what trade agreements would you like to see negotiated right now?
Like you said, NAFTA for sure.
Okay, NAFTA, I understand.
Either TPP or
how about China?
Are they called bilateral agreements?
Sure, right, exactly.
China's number one.
Okay, so what about China? I mean, what negotiation would you like Trump to be doing on agriculture and soy?
Our issue is that our trade was fine. It's the intellectual property. It was the other fight that we got dragged into.
Well, my understanding is that it isn't necessarily fine, for pork. I mean, that my understanding is they didn't somebody already say that China just is not able to produce for their people? Do you agree with that? I mean, it's not fine.
No, they cannot. I don't believe they can produce enough food.
I think they would let some people starve too.
I know.
I mean, that's the problem.
I know it is a problem. So
this is. I could be entirely wrong on this. We have the attitude that we have the beans, and the beans are going to get used. But I think China has the power to say, no, you're going to go without pork a couple of more times.
That's what I've been saying. It's like North Korea. We'd rather have the nuclear weapons than our people starve. And there's a lot of that in China too. The PLA is running the government, and they want all this technology because they want power, economic power, and military power, and the people can go without. But do you think that? I understand that all the commodity associations are bargaining directly with their counterparts in China. Is that your understanding? They can't
get around the tariff, though.
But I mean, they are trying to. They're having
trying to keep those relationships open because it's taken us decades to get them in place.
Okay, and do you think that that the government needs to, talk with the ambassadors, so you were saying, or do they need to be involved in strengthening this? And do you think that, given the food situation, that we should have a negotiation where somebody is directly dealing with this and saying, not only do we need to help our farmers, we need to help the people of China while these other things are being smoothed out.
We definitely feel food is national security.
It's for us and for them too, though. And because it destabilizes the country, and so we should be directly dealing with food. And do we have somebody in place whose duty that is?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so we want to clarify from the Trump administration that they have someone on this food issue with China, and so it's not to kind of decouple it from this arms and technology and manufacturing. So that would be a good thing to do. So I agree with that. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, I really have gained a lot from this, and I'm going to actually push these things. I'm actually going to tell Trump online and Sonny Perdue that they're really getting involved behind the farmer, but what we need to do is have a negotiation directly with China on the food issue and to start to decouple these things. And I don't see why we shouldn't do that, because it helps us direct not only aid in that negotiation, but to our own farmers, and let's say that China won't do it. You can look to Mexico. I mean, where do you Canada, Mexico. What do you think of our relations with those two countries right now, Canada and Mexico, as far as agricultural trade?
Well, it's changed a lot. It wasn't that many years ago. It was hard for us to export corn to Mexico. It seemed like, we raise our own corn. We want to protect our market, and I think they grew enough that they found out that they couldn't provide enough corn. And I'm a member of Minnesota Soybean Processors in Brewster, and we ship a 100-car train of meal to Mexico every week, pretty much. And you kind of worry about if that gets cut off for some stupid reason.
Okay, so corruption can become involved, of course.
Well, it's just NAFTA.
What about having a 5-year provision? Do you think that could have any positive effect, that you're going to renegotiate or look at this deal every 5 years so you can address some issues, maybe? Or do you think that that's just so risky that we won't get the deal if we put that in?
Well, I take this example. You raise apples and I raise oranges. And an apple and an orange are about the same price today. But my orange trees have a disease, so all of a sudden my oranges are worth 5 times what your apples are. But we made an agreement this 1 for 1.
Yeah.
So after a few years, you
have to revise it.
Things do change, but you can't just have.
I see
the president stepping in and saying, "I know you've worked really hard on this agreement,
right?
But hell with it.
I'm going to replace it with my own off-the-wall thoughts."
And I don't know that he should have that much power.
Okay, so he should have a better team in place that's more accountable to the farmers and also deals with some of the opportunities to improve trade agreements, especially for agriculture.
Have you talked to the corn growers yet? Or?
I did. I talked to Paul. I offered to talk on the radio, but they want to charge me $66, and I didn't know how many minutes. It's like a paid ad. I didn't really want a paid ad.
Right.
So, but I learned a lot from him. He's the one that said the farmers are the smartest people on the planet. Do you agree with that?
Everybody wants to be king, but the RFS too is a problem on the corn side. Did he talk to you about the renewable fuel standard?
Oh yeah, right. I mean, we were talking about the
ethanol. Even domestically,
right? And you're in favor of that because it would increase the price of corn.
Well, but so the small refinery waivers that were being given out in the past 3 years. It was a big enough deal that at Commodity Classic here in California in February, when Secretary Perdue was going to come in, the farmers were going to turn their backs. And that was then. That was...
Of course, he didn't make that, right? You think that was strong?
He was very strong, and we're going to end it. Well, it's taken until now to find out, just how pervasive those waivers were and how much money they cost American farmers and how little oversight there was.
Okay,
But I would leave that to corn to talk about, not me, because I'm not an expert on it.
Okay.
I just know that as a farmer, it makes me sick that, both internationally we're being restricted on trade and then domestically we're being restricted.
So you're being hit on that.
Right.
See, there's a left and a right to this too. If the ethanol market is really strong, the ethanol plants will drive the price of corn up, which makes this cattle farmer or this hog farmer have to pay more. There's always a trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
If it's good someplace, it's going to cause problems someplace else, or if it's bad, it all tracks. It's all in a big chain.
What do you think is the problem with auto what is it? The auto producers that they would use this ethanol, and is
Oil.
it? It's oil only,
doesn't
not the
want-
auto. Auto doesn't care.
Oil doesn't want to be blended.
Okay, so the oil companies
In my
don't want to
opinion,
blend.
again, check with Ford.
Right.
They're gonna have-
But I mean, why? And this is because it's a hassle to have to stop the
Well, it's
process
less-
and put
it's less
the
petroleum.
and less petroleum. Plus, it's more
It can be
complications.
replaced with renewable fuel.
And this is the thing I see from Trump, that the tendency is that let's remove the complications and the over-regulation that's stopping people from making money. But in this case, the farmers are losing money because you're simplifying it, and maybe that needs to be another negotiation.
And I think citizens in general support renewable fuels. It lessens our dependence on international oil. It's something we can grow. I don't see a lose here.
If you took ethanol out of gasoline today, tomorrow gasoline would be $1 higher.
Really?
Just because they can't produce enough good gasoline.
Does this improve the gasoline?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
this
Oh,
is
yeah.
a processing
We
that has to happen
That,
anyway.
that really happened. They jumped on it. The distributors jumped on it for a while ago because they weren't really producing a good product, and so the ethanol boosted the quality of that fuel.
Well, is there anything else that you want to share with me? I've really learned a lot.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yep.
Very nice talking with both of you.
Sure.
All right.
You can fix it all, right?
Yeah.
Well, I can do a lot.